All right, welcome. It's the weekly rundown with Snapper and Flux. I'm Snapper,
Flux,
pilot, former A-10 guy. Flux,
prior infantry Marine Corps, current AETC pilot training developer.
sweet. I'm a current pit instructor, and we are going to talk about the latest news in the Air Force today. That's going to cover our time. There's enough to go around with Air Force news as
Yeah,
it relates to the Doge and all that stuff.
yeah,
So big stuff right up front. You were a taker for the DERP, a
yep.
deferred resignation program that is now being implemented. What's the news there for you?
Yeah, so, over the last couple weeks, when we had to take the original group had to take, respond with the resign or not resigning. And all that was received was, hey, it's been received within 72 hours, you'll get a response. And obviously that changed to extend just about 2 weeks longer. And so there's still never been a single response. And then over this last week or the last few weeks, I've, consistently checked, what is the directive for the delay or deferred resignation program, looking on message boards on Reddit. And it seemed that for all the government agencies had already received guidance, were told the 28th would be their last day. Some people said, hey, I've got equipment that I've had since I've been on, no show to work, but work from home. Some agencies said just keep the gear, use it to do whatever. But still nothing that I could find on the DoD having any movement. So this morning I didn't check over the weekend anything, but this morning I checked my email. There was nothing new there other than we got that email saying that, hey, if you didn't respond to the last, 5 bullet points, and this was like for the Air Force specific, that this week you'd need to respond and go over just the last 2 weeks and say what you did. Don't release classified information. If everything you're doing contains classified information, just state that and don't say
So
anything.
it's spilled over. There's the two different topics you're speaking of right now. You were a taker on the deferred resignation program, but based on the delays and your setup right now and the way the Air Force has implemented it, you're still a government worker and you are still under the umbrella of requiring to respond to the tell me what you did last week email.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Initially, I would say, hey, well, they said initially, at the OG level to the OG civilians, like, hey, don't respond to this.
yeah.
So let's have a chat. And then that's when, the DoD responded saying that like the Doge doesn't have any place.
Yeah.
Expecting that from people. We do our own performance reviews,
Yeah. So
progress.
yeah, that's fully into the what you do last week email now. So yeah, there was the 22nd initial email, then there was the uh we're going to do our own thing from DoD from Hegseth, and then the 27th Hegseth says again expect an email on the 20 on the 3rd, and we got that email today this afternoon. I just sent my 5 bullets in
Yeah.
today based on that email saying we are going to implement this thing. It's going to be weekly. And so that brings me to kind of the way I see it with this process is we are in danger of the middle managers creating something that this was not intended to be out of it. So the the Doge stated intent for that tell me what you did last week email was just to get a response and try to weed out some low hanging fruit for fraud, waste, and abuse.
Yeah.
What's going to happen because now this is going to be a weekly thing? I think there are going to be some people who respond to this, some leaders who respond to it because they don't like Elon Musk in a way that makes it look really bad. It's kind of like that tantrum response that happened from the leaders who responded poorly to the remove DEI from training content stuff. You remember how that happened?
Yep.
I think we might get some leaders that are doing a similar thing with this process where they're like, oh, since you're telling us to do this, I'm going to I'm going to throw a tantrum and make everything look bad. Then there's another part of it that is maybe just people who are in the bureaucracy who are so used to being in the bureaucracy are like, oh, well, I can now we are going to do this. It's going to be every week. And now I'm going to start sending out standards for what is going to be in these 5 bullets. And then there's going to be discriminators. There's going to be people that do it well, the people that don't do it well. And people are going to start making this turn into additional appraisal type of stuff, which that I think is a huge foul. That should not be going on.
No.
But when I look at it from the optimistic point of view, from giving it the benefit of the doubt, like I always try to do, give everything the benefit of the doubt. It allows me, it actually forces me to be accountable to my weekly progress and actually write it down, which is going to be a good thing for me end of year for an appraisal report.
Yeah.
I'm going to have my best bullets I've had in years because I'm going to have a documentation of everything I've done.
Yeah, I literally wrote mine essentially the same way we do for, a quarterly award. And that, there's like what you did, how it was like implemented, and then like what did it positively do, and then, I submit for quarterly awards 4 times a year, and by the time I get to the annual award, I have all my bullet points for the end of the year.
Yeah.
So I just looked at it like that. I mean, not that big a deal.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing stuff. I know how it's implemented, and I know the dollar amounts at the
Yeah.
squad level and base level and AETC level. So it's no big
For you,
deal.
this task is not a big deal. It doesn't grate on your nerves. You're like, yeah, whatever. Here's what I did. Right.
Yeah.
And I think
I mean,
that's a help.
even if I wasn't leaving, I wouldn't be a big deal. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm
I
in a
think,
position where I'm not fighting for my job with other people that want it.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's what's going to happen, though. We're going to have this thing turn into something that it shouldn't have been in the first place. That's the worry.
Yeah.
Maybe it won't. Maybe we'll shake out what we need to after a couple of weeks of this, and we'll go back to what it was. Maybe they're going to find some people to fire over it.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe they're lying to us from the top. I don't think so, but maybe if you put in flippant or bullshit bullets, then you get reviewed and fired.
Yeah.
You
I wonder
know?
how, there's got to be at least like a 0.01% of people that are just responding with like just
Oh
completely
yeah,
stuff
out to
talking.
lunch like bad stuff. Like
Yeah. Yeah. There has to be.
yeah,
This
when
the email, this other email, we got the notification. I think it was Saturday, March 1st, that a new email was going out about this, and then we got it early this afternoon.
yeah
And yeah, I mean, I wonder how many people have responded to things on the weekend that's just like out of line and like, oops, did I send
yeah
that?
yeah now they're getting reviewed. There's a lot of
There's got to be some way that they have a list of how many emails are within an organization and that they can actually pinpoint who's not responding instead of like going through all the responses one by one
yeah
first. If their initial reasoning was that they're trying to find like if people like no longer have the job
yeah.
or like
Well,
they're
to me
checked out.
the the DoD is going to what I've heard is this went through TMT. You know what task management tool is?
Yeah.
So this is going to go through all of the staffs and it's going to get trickled down to the lowest unit size. And each of those is going to be able to potentially scrub the names that were on the outgoing email list to their unit,
Hmm.
verify that they're still working there, and then ensure that everybody that's still working there sends a response to it. So there may be some tools in place that's pretty easy, pretty simple to do a scrub.
Yeah, I'm sure they thought about this before implementing it, you
Uh,
know.
well,
I
I
mean,
hope.
maybe, but I mean, it's just like how many people does it take if you're physically reading each email to do that?
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I think that's where a middle manager at lower echelons is going to distort this. Because at the
Yeah.
top level, they don't have manpower, time, or the ability or the desire probably to look at the content and be able to make discriminating oh, this is a great response. Oh, this is a BS response. I don't think that was the intent. But now that it's being shuffled down to lower managers, you see what I'm saying? It's going to start being, oh, your bullets were crap, so I'm going to review you. I don't think that was the intent. So,
Yeah. And then, yeah, like you said, in another version, middle management could be like, well, I don't want to like say that people of my organization are crap. So I'm just gonna, say it, overall everyone's here and
yeah,
working well.
yeah. So, man, kind of a weird time right
Yeah,
now. And so many different massive changes and so many different moving parts
yeah.
for Big Blue. I'm
Yeah, at this point it doesn't seem, yeah, it seems like it's overall gonna be a negative effect on everything.
in the short term.
Yeah,
Yeah.
short term.
In the
Yeah.
short term, it's going to be ugly. Yeah. We got a lot of things to work out in the short term.
Yeah, and then that could just push people that, and I think you brought this up a couple weeks ago, like IPs that are civilians, like don't really need the job. They're still here doing it because they still want to be a part of the mission. And this could just get so frustrating. And the
Yeah.
people that are needed, like the civilian guy, sim instructor guys come over and help out at the 559th on classes in the VR training. And yeah, I mean, we might lose some other people that are still valuable that are just like, I'm over it.
Yeah.
There's enough IPs that I've talked to that said just having to use AFNet machines over the course of 20 years is like enough to be one of the key points of leaving.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always been a struggle trying to maintain patience to the
Yeah.
level required when dealing with some of the Air Force computers.
Yeah. I mean, I'll start getting logged in, enter my password, the screen, tries to launch the desktop, and then for whatever reason it goes back to the black screen. I gotta hit the that happens like 3 or 4 times, and then I'm waiting for it to log into the VPN, walk away for 5 minutes, come back, forget about it, and it's like start over again. Um,
Yeah. When I went through Pitt the second time, the computer based training lab had this little room that has a bunch of cubicles and it's computers where it's access for everybody to get onto the course training. And I took note over a 4 week academic course. I spent no less than 8.5 hours for boot up time. It was about 30 to 40 minutes per time logging in to get those things to turn on at the
yeah.
worst. Sometimes you got as lucky as being 6 to 9 minutes to log in. It was bad. It was real bad. I think they fixed that one, but that kind of goes across the force.
Yeah, and you think about how many man hours is that just in money,
In the
just
aggregate for the entirety of the force, oh my gosh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well,
Um,
let's see what else is going on. So we kind of talked the
oh well,
deferred.
I did get the did see that there actually is guidance as of March 1st that came out, and I did send you that
Yeah,
email.
for deferred resignation. So that
Yeah,
one has a pamphlet with details on how the Air Force is going to implement deferred resignation.
yeah.
And I
So
did not get a chance to read through that. Did you read through it?
I read through the Air Force page itself. The link to the page is like kind of the summary,
Okay.
and then then there's kind of like that little handbook that I attached with it. So essentially, it's just saying as of March 1st that the Air Force itself, which is the first time I've seen anywhere that the Air Force and any DoD entity has, officially begun, and that first people are going to be like things should start coming across maybe this week as to the people that just agreed to it should start getting, their responses and processes. And then there's what do you want to negotiations? So I've heard that brought up. I'm not sure what that is, but I'm guessing there might be some people that are trying to negotiate something.
Here we go. Okay. So approval and initial period. Each DRP, I'm just going to say DIRP. Each
Yep.
DIRP participant is required to execute a deferred resignation agreement before being placed on administrative leave. Employees should coordinate with their supervisor to determine the specific date on which the employee will be placed on the administrative leave status. In addition, the offboarding process for approved DIRP participants should not commence until a written agreement outlining the procedure for the smooth transition of the employee's duties, responsibilities, and work assignments has been made between the supervisors and the DIRP participant. So that was the origin a lot of people's questions when they started this thing. Well, what about
Yeah.
transition into somebody new, or who's going to take over my duties? Is it just going to stop? So yeah, you're I guess on the hook for getting somebody to take over your responsibilities, and you got to get paperwork knocked out before you can go on that administrative leave status.
Yeah. So, I mean, for my situation, there's not going to be someone.
Yeah, and that's weird. There's just nobody that's going to have your qualifications, since you were a pretty specific individual
Yeah.
uh, position description.
Yeah. I mean, good luck. That's not going to happen.
Yep.
And
I'm
then,
not doing it. I'm not doing it.
yeah, I have like started training people at the 559, two guys at the 559 that are, you know, commissioned officers that are IPs,
Yeah.
but they're learning the editing skills part so they can specifically help the 559th because
Yep.
there's no way I'm staying to finish their training videos.
Yeah.
So they're not, there's no way they're going to take my responsibility, but they are interested in doing it and within their squadron, you
Yeah.
know. So that'll help them. But the amount of people I was told that had been officially verbally told that they would be hired to do my job before I even applied was something to the realm of 60. And they all of them, like stopped the process because they couldn't get past the KSA questions. So from the moment I got past the KSA questions, it probably still
That's
took,
knowledge, skills, and abilities on USA Jobs interface.
yeah. And so, and it is a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
Um, if, yeah. And so from that point, it took still about 6 months, 7 months
Yeah.
before I could show up and start working. So,
Yeah.
like, who's looking for a job that long, especially right now?
Yeah. That's going to be tough. Yeah. There's a couple more pages of details on how the deferred resignation is going to happen for you. Yeah. It looks like you probably won't get backfilled. Um, the pay and tax information goes to my pay, get details there, equipment return, timekeeping and reimbursement, um, records management, performance report management, ethics implications, um, security of data, resources. So that data is out there on the release for the DRP participants with links and clarification for all of those topics. So this makes me think of another thing we've talked about on this podcast, where we've got people who are responding to things emotionally. We've got people who are responding to things in a way that creates fear and panic for a lot of people. And it's, again, not giving the benefit of the doubt to the leaders in place who are making these things happen. And what it does, if you're looking for information, if Flux is looking for information on the deferred resignation program, and you're looking at so many people responding with anger, oh, this will never work, this is illegal, it's never going to pay out. What you're doing as the person who's producing that opinion and putting it out there is you're basically weakening and making our United States of America worse, because you have no real data to stand on. You're just doing a knee-jerk emotional response to this thing because you don't like the leader. And it turns out that this is completely a legitimate program.
Yep.
You're just putting disinformation out there to make people dislike those leaders. It's irresponsible. It's bad for the country.
It's
And you should
child.
be ashamed of yourself for doing that stuff. You should look for the details, look for the real data, and don't go out there and poo poo stuff just because you don't like the person.
Well, and at the same time, people with attitudes like that don't belong as a part of the organizations anyway.
Well, the thing is, we have such a ubiquitous online social media presence now, and that's the MO. That's just how people go out. It
I
it's
see it as
so
yeah,
big. There's so many people that do it. They're just out there to shit on stuff.
but yeah, and what I've noticed though too is, we could say that, the far right, the far left, both have crybabies.
Yes,
And the
true.
majority of the only people you see posting online when it comes to political things are those both extremes of those political parties and their crybabies. So it
Yeah,
always, if that only way you consume knowledge is that way, then both sides do sound like crybabies. And
yeah,
just it takes one comment and all of a sudden it's either libtard or magtard. Instantly. It could be a post with a kid playing with his dog and it immediately turns to that.
yeah. That's
And
too
so,
bad.
yeah, and I think that like when you go online, you still have like the silent warriors. Those 100% exist. You just
Yeah,
don't hear about it. So you
yeah.
only see the negative. So
Well, I'm trying to in this format in this podcast that we're doing really kind of sift through, tell truth data, say this is the messaging I'm getting from here. Here's the messaging I'm getting from here.
yeah,
Give it the benefit of the doubt. Don't go out there swinging and giving yourself less and less credibility. The more you scream from the the walls saying, "Hey, this is never going to work. This is all you can't trust a single thing Trump does." You're just eroding your own credibility and you're making America a worse place. It's
yeah,
just it's so disappointing. At
yeah,
least have some foundation to stand on in the things that you're saying. Please
yeah,
give these things the benefit of the doubt. I didn't just sit here and tell you, "Oh, I love this thing because Trump did it." I just gave you 6 to 9 reasons why this is going to be a problem. We're going to have troubles with this. There's going to be middle managers that screw this up. There are going to be a lot of losers. There are going to be people who are now being appraised up and down when they shouldn't be.
yeah,
And there's going to be people that rise to the top because they're putting great bullets together on this what you do last week thing that shouldn't be.
yeah. Yeah, as soon as it becomes um normal, like a weekly thing, and then gets farther than that, and it becomes something that like supervisors might get graded on and having to present their weekly reports to somebody else. That's when it's going to turn into what you're talking about.
Yeah. Some supervisors like, I want 100% of my people to be doing this email on time. And if you're not on time, then blah, and then it turns into something that it shouldn't be. Anyway, dude, what else is going on? Let's move along.
Yep. I think earlier this week I sent you that email. Uh, maybe we already covered it about, let's see here.
Was that the Elon brief?
Yeah, the first cabinet meeting
Yeah.
with Elon.
Yeah. We've
Oh,
gone past that. That was,
here's like how about the Zelensky with
oh, man, I wanted to prep for this one because this one's important, dude.
yeah,
Again, this is just like we dovetail perfectly into it. There are people who are screaming their faces off on both sides. And I look at them and I'm going, knock it off. You're not
yeah,
fooling anybody anymore with your I am on red team, I'm on blue team rhetoric.
yeah,
Let's get into real depth on this stuff. And dang it, I got a message from a guy that explains the different perspectives on this.
yeah,
It explains the consequences for these actions. It explains a little bit more of the background information on Zelensky, and that maybe, I mean, watching that thing live with no context, you're like, whoa, that's that's ugly. You guys chill out a little bit. You're acting like babies. But
yeah,
if you give the benefit of the doubt again and you kind of digest a lot of this backstory, the build up to this, the history of Zelensky's actions and how he's been very demanding and stuff like that. It doesn't sound good when your president and vice president get fixated on saying, you need to respect my authority and be nice to me, say thank you. You know, it doesn't sound good. It looks really awful. And
Yeah.
they probably could have been, doing that a little better, but that's their personalities aren't going to
Yeah.
lend themselves to saying that, to dealing with that better. But if you look at it with the benefit of the doubt, understand some history, understand the buildup, and understand the implications of the broader policy that's behind the really poorly articulated verbal battle between the people,
Yeah.
you may be way more on board. I guarantee you would be more on board as opposed to just watching your 10-second clip, listening to a talking head on MSNBC lose their mind over whatever they're going to say about it.
Yeah.
There's my input.
Yeah. I mean, I just have no interest in Ukraine. I could care less. And then like when he's talking about like, well, this is going to come to you and your American soldiers are going to be dying at some point over it. It's like,
Yeah,
what?
that rose my eyebrows.
I was like, are you
Zelensky's
out of your
threatening
mind,
us.
dude? I could care less if the whole country's gone. Like, it's not in my world. Like, I don't know why we're helping you. Like,
Yeah,
kick rocks, go change your clothes and come back better, you know?
he did kind of threaten, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's what, like, when he first brought it up, that's when they really started, like, being like, whoa, 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 don't tell us what our people are going to be doing for
yeah,
your country.
yeah,
I think that's when it really, like, started going off the rails as far as arguing. He's like, you guys don't even appreciate what we're doing.
yeah,
Meanwhile, you're like getting people with like autism, like, and forcing them to fight. Like, are you crazy?
yeah.
Yeah.
Messed up.
I mean, dude, ever since I seen that video of him in like the leotard hip thrusting throughout a whole song, I was like,
Like,
wait a minute, this is real? I seen
yeah,
that like 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, okay, this guy should not be any charge of anything if that video still exists. He should be.
yeah. He's a TV star turned politician because of popularity. Maybe not really the greatest background. Maybe vulnerable to some ego, some megalomania after being
Yeah,
jumped into this and having power, and always
yeah,
being interested in being in the limelight, having been a TV personality type of thing, and
yeah.
craving that sort of thing. That's what motivates him, is power and being center of attention.
Attention. Yeah.
Yeah. So potentially, I'm not saying that's what's going on, but that could be.
Yeah, it's a definitely being in front of a lot of people has a certain special type of energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And it can be used for good or evil.
Just having a good time. But yeah, I mean, in that context, it's sure, I don't know. I mean, I thought that before him there was like a democratic election of who the Ukrainians wanted, right?
He won the election. It wasn't a democratic. It was a he was a democratically elected personality, but it was
Okay.
via his popularity. He was a TV personality before that. He was the most famous actor in Ukraine before he was elected.
Yeah.
So it's like back in the heyday of now I can't even remember his name. Well, anyway, The Rock when he was at his peak, if he
Yeah.
became president, that's basically
Yeah, and people wait think that The Rock would be a good politician. It's like people are out of their minds.
yeah, yeah,
You shouldn't be like emotionally attached to someone that's an actor to the point of thinking they can run countries.
yeah. They played a role of a character that was strong and decisive, and maybe they're just a freaking wet noodle in real life, but they remember
Quite a lot
the
of
character they played.
quite a lot of big dudes 100% are. Not him, doesn't seem like it, but like most meatheads I've met are definitely taken up for something.
Yeah. Let's see here. Present company excluded, right?
You're not one of them.
I've been told I'm a meathead many times. Here's one. Here's a new headline here. Trump
Meathead
admin.
experience. Jiu-jitsu is different than the meatheads I'm talking about.
Oh, so yeah, dude. Speaking of jujitsu, I just got back to no gi. First
Yeah.
time back since spine fusion surgery, and man, no gi is so much nicer on the hands.
He's
Oh,
start getting like arthritis immediately.
yeah, yeah. I could fall asleep the night of training
Yeah.
doing no gi versus the night of training with a gi. I just wanted to cut my hands off.
Yeah.
All right,
Like it's
here's
interesting that like it hurts and the repercussions, but it's like you're still doing 100% grip strength.
yep.
You can't not do it.
Man, I was so smoked. It's such a different. I've been working out with my trainer. I'm in decent shape, but it's a whole different thing going from 3 days a week for 45 minutes or an hour, a session to 45 minutes of rolling and drilling. Oh my
Yeah.
God, completely smoked.
Do they do like the in between, like as one class is over, then you have like that half hour before the next class start, and then it's just like 2 minute open match
Um,
fight.
no, it's a 1 hour block for everybody. It's a pretty small dojo, and the drill that we did was four uh, rolling positions. There's four smaller mats to be had, and so there's everybody's lined up on the wall, and there's the highest ranking belts are out there, and then it's a pass guard or reverse type of a
Yeah.
thing, and whoever gets the point stays out. And so the more you win, the more you stay out. You
Yeah.
start winning 4 or 5 in a row, and you're like, all right. So
Yeah.
yeah, that burned me out pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a certain type of cardio with jujitsu when you're actually like rolling, doing rounds.
And having been gone for almost a year for back surgery, I completely left my breathing out the window. It was gone. I mean, I was holding my breath the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, you're just like suffocating
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah. I've got to get back into a routine and stay mindful of my breath. Uh, takes
Yeah.
practice, though.
Yeah, I mean, once you get back into it, it usually just goes back to second nature. But at first, especially like in gi, you're just like killing yourself half the time at first. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, well,
So
that's
yeah,
good. The
Wednesdays. If you're
back
still
pain.
around, dude, Wednesdays, 6:30 to 7:30
AM?
p.m.
Okay. Let's start my day out
No,
getting
I no try to take a flight after that. No way, dude.
I'm
I need
okay
a
with
full night's rest after that.
waking up and pulling G's, but like not getting choked with a gi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right on. All right,
Well,
let's see where we at. Yeah, we got some more time. Let's do a couple more articles here. Here's one. Trump admin loosens the rules for US military airstrikes. So, the rules of engagement have been loosened. Um, reported February 28th, and it looks like actions in Somalia, Syria, the Central Command AOR has been adjusted to more liberal rules of engagement. So less Mother May I up to White House and Pentagon leaders for each individual strike. That's to me, if we have military engaged in combat somewhere, if we're moving the strike authority away from the White House, that's always a good thing.
yeah.
So I think that's my take on that one. Did you have ROE pain when you were in the Marines?
No,
No.
not really. Just I was lower, low enlisted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So it never like became, oh, I can't do this or I'm going to get in trouble.
no,
Like
not
hold
for
you
me.
back.
not at that low level. I think, and then if it was, yeah, no, not really. It was definitely there wasn't really much option to make decisions.
Okay.
Like other people were doing that.
I had a very close relationship with rules of engagement as an
Yeah,
A-10 pilot
for sure.
over many, many years in Afghanistan,
Yeah,
and scoffed at just how ridiculously lawyered up it got. And so definitely a good thing. Hey, just so you know, you guys up at the top, Mr. President, if you want military action to be taking place, you think it's a good thing to be done, give the engagement authority with good commander's intent down the chain, please.
yeah. Otherwise, it's especially when you're protecting troops on the ground. They're not asking for help because they're looking forward to it next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I wonder, I don't know really any of the logistics of what's going down in Somalia, but what's going on that they like made that possible?
Let's see. Airstrikes in Somalia against ISIS Somalia on February 1st, directed and conducted under the president's direction. So that's what's up in Somalia. Um,
Hmm.
AFRICOM commander, yeah, they met over this, and lots going on, folks. We've got people in shooting wars in a couple different continents right now.
Yeah, and Mexico, right here in the
A
Americas.
few different continents. Yeah, we got special operators down there south of the border now getting their normal operations figured out.
Yeah, yeah. How do you feel about that? We now have, from what I'm seeing, is that we even have Marines on the other side of the border as well. So I
That
think,
one I don't know enough about. I have not researched enough about it to speak intelligently on how I feel about it. I do know that um, enforcing the rule of law, the laws that are on the books, is important.
yeah, yeah. If we aren't going to enforce them, then we should change them to something we want to enforce.
Yeah,
That way, there's some accountability for it. I think what I've seen online, the average person's overall responses seem to be like, we're training the enemy. And, that's always has always come back around to bite us. But at the same time, I mean, I'm not responding to people, but if we're training them, then that's the legal way that we're allowed to be within their units. And that gives us the opportunity to stay involved in a way that's still legally possible for, American military to be right there in Mexico. And even if we are training some of them, we do know they're training and we're controlling what they're being trained. So that whole keep your enemies closest, it's fine. We have eyes on the ground right there. So
and so the way I understand it is the legitimate government of Mexico is cooperating fully in this stuff, and
yeah,
so this is turning over a new chapter in the U.S. Mexico relations.
yep.
With Trump coming in, he's like, "All right, we're bringing troops. We are going to stop the influx. This is our new policy. We are going to deport folks. So if you guys don't help us, we're gonna you'll pay consequences as Mexico." And Mexico's like, "All right, what do we need to do? Let's do this." That's my
Yeah,
perception of what has gone on, big
yeah,
picture.
yeah. And I think it's encouraged them to like take care of their own problem. And
Yeah.
like we're there to help. And if it's training, then so be it. But at the beginning, it was understood to the way I understood it was that, this is Mexico's like first, this is their problem. It's coming to us, but they've never fixed a lot of the problems. And if they are doing it
They've
with more,
always kind of just turned a blind eye to stuff that's going on illegally within their own borders because it's eventually going to go away and just get flushed into the United States and no longer their problem.
yeah, and this could, you have all these people from Mexico. They have all this pride for Mexico, but don't want to fix their own country. And it's like, well, maybe this could turn into like a safer place for people to want to stay and fix their country. Could be hard to want to fix something if everything's constantly like unsafe, you know, regular facilities are being blown up or nobody
Yeah.
wants to live in places and do jobs because it's just not safe. So maybe, I mean, getting the rule of law in place is definitely going to allow for humans to be more civilized. So maybe long term, this could be a start.
Yeah. So overall, you're seeing a positive in what's going on at the border
Well, I mean, I
and
think it's
having
good.
troops over there.
I think it's good. A lot of people don't think it is, but a lot of people don't have the same involvement with any type of military stuff or education. And a lot of people think it's a bad move to be helping train them, but they aren't taking into consideration how important it is to have our own people like on that side of the border and being able to be a part of it and just and gather intel like one person at a time.
Roger.
Otherwise, it's not legal for us to be over there.
Yeah.
So I think that was a smart way to get eyes like right up front.
Yeah. Kind of learning the space a little bit by being there firsthand.
Yeah. And, they could figure out if there is any corruption within those units
Yep.
themselves. Yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
they're sending Green Berets, guys that specialize, they're the best at what we have of doing that specific job.
Yeah.
Get into a force, no matter what country they are, and, people that live in the jungle and helping learn their language or have an interpreter, teaching them tactics and getting like a better, view of like what space they're in. So I mean,
Yeah.
this is the bread and butter, the right guys for the job, and they definitely know, um, like what terrorism looks like within groups of
Yeah.
people.
So you're speaking to specifically the fact that there are Green Berets that have been sent down there in a training role to Mexico to bolster the Mexican government's ability to counter the cartels.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah. I don't see any negativity in that.
Yeah, me either. Um, let's see one more. The Air Force names the OA-1K Skyraider 2 as the new aircraft prepares to come online. So this is the crop duster that's been up armored and got sensors, rockets, um, hellfires, all kinds of stuff on it. What's your take on that one? What have you heard about the?
I haven't heard anything about crop duster.
You haven't heard about the Skyraider 2? Okay.
Hold on, let me see.
This is
Oh,
a result of we've been trying to do a light attack platform for the Air Force for a
I
long
had
time.
I thought it was a joke, but to be honest, when I first seen it,
Really?
I didn't think it was real.
Yeah. So legit crop duster that's been renamed. I want to hear what your initial take on it. It looks like you thought it was a joke.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
now I remember seeing it, I'm like, it's like a weaponized T6. Cool. I didn't really think that it was actually going to go down.
yep, it's becoming a program of record with a real name and everything.
What is it? I mean, like, where's it going to deploy realistically?
So the purpose of this light attack platform was to take over the A-10's
Yeah,
implementation of close air support in permissive environments. So permissive environment like Afghanistan. If we had those air tractors in Afghanistan, they're not worried about getting shot down, and the cost per hour to fly a single engine turboprop versus a twin engine jet like the A10 is going to be is theoretically lower. But now that it's a new fucking program of record, it's going to cost just as much to operate per hour because it's a program of record and the Air
why
Force
aren't they
managed
worried about him getting shot down?
it. You wouldn't be worried about it being shot down in a permissive environment. That's what A-10 was, an overkill airplane to use in Afghanistan. That's the whole point. So for
Yeah,
20 years ago, they're like, let's look for a light attack platform. So they looked at the AT6, they looked at the Super Tucano A29, they did a bunch of this stuff.
yeah,
and they used the A-29 as the fixed wing close air support platform within Afghanistan, training Afghan pilots for
Yeah.
close air support.
That's
Uh,
the Super Tucano, right?
yes,
Yeah, it is. I think that's like the Brazil's version of like the UPT.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They got Tucano, Super Tucano, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so the the initial hack I've had from my Air Force A-10 pilot bros about
No
this
air
air
refueling,
tractor.
I imagine.
What's that?
No air refueling.
I'm not sure if it air refuels. I don't know that much about it, but
I
I'll
got a new.
quote.
They need a new boom.
Yeah, I don't know if it does or not, but yeah, that big spinning prop out front would tend to make it. But you know,
Yeah.
the other prop airplanes air refuel. Um, the quote from old A-10 buddy of mine that I just saw was, "I'd rather fly a RC airplane."
Yeah. And I mean, what we have drones that can be flown to do the same thing.
Yeah. Um,
So I don't
from
know. Like,
a close air support professional's perspective, if you look at where one key element here that probably drives a lot of the hate from the A-10 world is look at where the pilot sits, look at his visibility, look at his ability to look down at the ground in an A-10. Now switch over to the air tractor and look at his ability to look underneath him. It's blocked by the big old freaking Hershey bar wing. You can't see anything in that
you're gonna
airplane. Big old nose in front of you.
have to do aileron rolls before you do
Yep.
anything.
So the the placement of the pilot in relation to the wings makes this a terrible close air support platform. Just period.
Yeah.
So you can't get around that. And whoever decided in Big Blue to make this the close air support light attack platform, um, maybe wasn't an A-10 pilot. I don't know who did it, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe they have like a remote CISO or
Oh man,
or Wizzo. I mean, yeah, just sitting somewhere else sipping coffee and just got like a camera underneath. I don't know,
it's gonna
but
turn out. Yeah, it's gonna turn out. I think they're two seaters, and they've got
okay,
two sensor balls on board. So you got one for the pilot, one for the backseater, weapons officer. I don't know what they call them, but still, it's going to be permissive environment. It's going to be a lot of with two sensors on there. You're going to be doing some non-traditional ISR. There's going to be a lot of orbit time,
yeah,
just watching stuff happen.
yeah, and all this just so like in 5 years they convince we still need the A10.
Then we'll have to do a new program of record from scratch to replace the A-10 that is not being well replaced by the
Stop
freaking
this.
air tractor. Oh, it's the OA1K Sky Raider 2. Sorry, I got that mixed up.
Skyraider 2. That's a pretty intense name.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
paying homage to the old A1 Sky Raider from Vietnam, that big old nasty sucker with the big old prop out front. That thing's awesome.
yeah, yeah. The Sky Raiders. Yeah, I think there was we had those are come to some air shows. Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I looked at, man. I think that's a big,
Yeah, that
long
covers it.
discussion on quite a wide span of topics.
Yeah, I think and we'll see what happens this week and this next week, maybe have some updates of actual, what's happening with me.
Yep. That's
Uh,
good to see you. Good to see you feeling a little bit better. Got some good sleep. It
Yeah.
was a good day today. Right on, man.
Yeah, yeah. This weekend was Operation Sleep.
Good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right,
Likewise.
man. Well, I'll
All right.
keep checking you out on your socials. We'll see
Yep.
you next time.
Yeah, I'll see ya. Have a good one.